Here we go. Okay. Cravings, people. Uh, Cravings is something that I think we all can relate to. I think we all have felt cravings on a regular basis, probably, but some less and others more. And there are reasons for that. Um, And something that I think is important, like first of all, when we're talking about cravings, it can be like, it's a negative, it's kind of something negative about it, having cravings, but just normalizing it, I think, is very important. That like we all have them, and it's not something weird. Like it is a natural reason for them. And I think that first of all is important so that we can get curious on the why, basically. So, and eating as a kind of response to cravings is not a failure. Like that is where like we're thinking that willpower will get us through life basically, and that can work for short periods of time, but not as like, okay, this is what I'm gonna. Now I'm just letting someone in here. That's not something that we want to rely on. We want to know that willpower, there's a time and place for it, but definitely not something that we want to rely on because it's not going to work, basically. So just looking at the biology of like how we function and where we come from, basically, cravings are based in wanting nurture. Like it's a response from our body when it wants something, when it wants to be nurtured. um, so first of all, I think when a client of mine is having a lot of cravings, what I'm looking at is, what are you eating breakfast? Are you eating lunch? Basically, are you eating meals? Like that's the big, like, are you focusing on eating meals, or are you just eating small snacks here and there, like all day long, and not really having a good routine of meals? So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is to focus on a proper breakfast and a proper lunch. It's very popular and has been for quite some time to like skip breakfast and do fasting. And I'm not saying that fasting is a bad thing, but I'm saying I would rather skip the nightly snack or a later meal than skip the breakfasts, because how you fuel yourself early in the day is going to have a huge impact on potential cravings that you feel later in the day. So, skipping the breakfast if you are in a situation of fasting, it's not what I would do. I would rather skip a later meal, basically. Um, at least try it out, like experiment with it and see if you feel differently. And this is for you that are actually experiencing cravings. If it works for you and you are not experiencing cravings, of course, like no need to change anything, but more if you are like, you can recognize yourself in cravings is a big part of your life, then this is what I would do first. Like proper breakfast, meaning like a full on volume plate with based in foods that are whole foods mainly, proper portion of protein. And when I say proper, I like at least 30 grams, between 30 50 grams of protein, and a lot of veggies, and just a volume, basically. And that can be, many of us are maybe used to like not eat a big breakfast, and it can be hard. But just because we're not used to something doesn't mean that we're not capable of that. So if you feel intimidated by eating a big breakfast, at least try it. Give it a couple of weeks. Do your best to get it, or like build it. You can do that as well. like by over time kind of increasing your breakfast in volume and in macros basically. um, or just get going and see how you feel. Because many times I think we are it's likely that we're like, no, that doesn't, I don't eat breakfast, or like that's I can't eat that much, or like we kind of have stories that we tell ourselves that is of course based in some kind of truth, but just because it has been like that before, it doesn't mean that that has to be the truth forever, so to speak. We are capable of change. So if that change can lead to something positive, then I'm thinking that it's a change worth exploring, basically. Lunch is also like the second meal. So basically, having your breakfast and your lunch be two of your biggest meals of the day would be very beneficial if you are experiencing a lot of cravings. What I see a lot with clients, and I assume that the other coaches can agree with me here, is that those are the two meals that clients usually are are eating very little, especially I would say actually lunches. I can see that, okay, we have a proper breakfast, but then lunch is like 200 calories. It's a little salad or a bar or like something small. And I can get it, like you're busy at work and stuff, but really trying to fuel yourself properly during lunch as well is, again, can be a huge help for cravings later in the day. And for clients that I have worked with, uh, I would, and it's been a lot that where this has kind of been a thing that we have worked on. I don't think I've heard anyone tell me anything different than, oh, my cravings has diminished. Like it's just it's a given, I would say, if this is a change you make, and it's a change that comes in how you feel with cravings, that comes also quite rapidly. It's not like, oh, you're gonna feel it after 4 weeks. No, usually you will feel it pretty straight on when you start getting into just proper meals, basically. So, and dopamine plays a huge role in cravings, and it also in habit, creating habits, basically. So the a dopamine hit, so to speak, is it's not so much about what you eat, it's about like the expectation of relief, or something that's sweet, nice, something that your body enjoys, basically. And from way back when we were like hunters and gatherers, then like anything that we could eat that were high calorie dense, salt, sugar, fat, that was something that we really had to, or very beneficially would eat and enjoy and would benefit from. But in today's modern society, where we are just, there's an overload of processed food that are hyper palatable, is that how you say it? Palatable is how you say it. They are just like kicking our just having a field trip with our dopamine. And that's what they are made to do. They're made to make us addicted, basically. So we have to be careful, especially if you are one that mostly eat processed foods. You are probably going to feel cravings a lot more, because that's what processed foods are made you to feel. It's made for you to want more, basically. So that is also going to be kind of just a basic of like, how can I lessen my cravings from what I said earlier with like just focusing on meals, proper lunch, proper breakfast. Another thing that is hugely important is whole foods, really making look at, what do I eat? How much of what I eat is whole foods and how much of what I eat is processed? And if it's however it looks like, trying to diminish the processed foods and changing them out with whole foods is also going to be a huge pathway, so to speak, towards lessening those cravings and making kind of having a dopamine fasting scenario, basically, where you're kind of giving not that dopamine some rest so that it's more sensitive, basically, and it's not as you're not relying on those dopamine hits all the time. And it's also the connection of when we're stressed, like the emotional stress, any stress basically, but mental emotional stress. If you are one that usually turns to food, and that's that's very common, then it's kind of like your brain is going, oh, and you feel good because you eat something, then that becomes the solution. Like it's like your brain is thinking that, oh, this is the solution, and then it remembers that. So it's creating this neural pathway where like, oh, for the next time I'm stressed, oh, sugar worked, sugar was the solution. And then the more you do that, then now you have a habit. So it's really about changing the direction of that habit pathway, what your body is kind of what it's asking for when you are experiencing a lot of stress for whatever reason. So this is something that I talk a lot about with my clients, is really having that inner dialogue when things are coming up. And it could be for whatever basically, but especially like when we are then experiencing cravings, like what am I actually feeling right now? Am I stressed? Am I bored? Am I low on energy? So just really asking yourself questions is going to be the first step towards some clarity and awareness. And then it's kind of easier to look at one's behavior and habits kind of objectively if you're asking yourself questions. So that is also something that I think is very important. And for us to ask ourselves questions, that anytime a client of mine really reflects, that tells me that this is a client that really wants to change. So that's going to be kind of the first question. Do you want things to change? Do you want to do things differently? And if the answer is yes, what will then automatically be the next step is to ask the questions so that you are curious and figuring out, how can I do things differently? Why am I feeling this way? Why am I choosing this? That's always going to be part of change. And of course, some people are just doers. They just do. But for most of us, asking the questions are going to kind of take us steps forward. And we're going to learn, basically. So that's kind of the way we want to create that dopamine shift, basically. So as I mentioned, we can also, it's a kind of a balance between like not needing the dopamine hit, but at the same time, we're like human beings, that's how we function. But at least, how can we get dopamine kicks in other ways and forms without using food that is not benefiting our health goals, our physique goals? Because that's basically what it's all about, right? As long as we're eating in a way that are supporting our goals and our health and how we want to feel, there's no problems. It becomes a problem when it's clashing with what we want. So quick walk, cold water. It could be cold water on your face. It could be a dip in the sea, cold exposure in general. Dancing to your favorite song, singing your favorite song, texting a friend is one. Like, just how can you create relief and like just feeling good, basically, without using food? And that is something that I think everyone will benefit from, no matter if cravings is a problem or not, because sometimes it can be about overtraining, because training is the only way you are relieving stress. Then that can become an issue, right? So I think having several ways of relieving stress is always going to be beneficial. But of course, especially when our stress relief is working kind of against how we want to feel, and what we want for our body, and mind, basically. Um, so kind of connected to what I started off with is like with the meal focus, and whole foods, high protein intake, fiber, and then mostly through whole foods and veggies is great, and fruits. Healthy fats, like just really looking at your macro distribution, looking at your looking at your intake in general, and how much of it is whole foods, is going to balance your blood sugar levels, and that's going to be part of all of this, as well, of diminishing those cravings. So I think it's a lot of about what I'm talking about today is kind of the basics of health, and I say this a lot, but I really do believe it is true. I believe that the modern society that we live in are, if we're not actively are working on our health and our well-being, we are going to be removed from it just by living in this modern world. I truly believe that. And I'm not saying that is fact, but that's what I'm seeing. So I think just being very aware of your choices, and then also kind of knowing that the choices we are making, and what's available for us, kind of acknowledging that it is hard, like it is going to be hard to make good choices. It's not going to be the easiest choices necessarily, um, but it's going to be hard. But at the same time, everything in life can be hard. So it's just choose your hearts, right? And if we're going the hearts that we choose, let it be what works with us and for us, and not against us, basically. And this is something, give yourself permission. This is something that I am a big, I love this. Like, this is something that I use a lot myself, as well. And I think for me, at least, mentally, it really works. So anytime that I have a physique goal and I'm tracking my calories, and I'm doing all the things, I'm really like zoned in, and maybe I've been there for a few weeks, and I feel like, oh, I really want to just dig down into like a bowl of candy and not need to track like what I eat, and then maybe I'm thinking this on a Wednesday. And then I will just say on Saturday, I will do that. I will on Saturday, that's okay. I'm gonna buy whatever I want of candy because I love candy. I'm gonna buy whatever I want of candy, and I'm just gonna eat what I want. It's okay. But just by me giving myself that permission, first of all, if I then choose to do it, I'm okay with that. I'm not going to feel guilty because, I know it's a one-time thing, or a very, rare thing in this like focused time that I'm in. But the thing is that many times I don't even need it, because just by giving myself permission to do it, when I get to that Saturday, I'm like, I don't really need all of that candy. And I'm actually amazed on how like just that inner self-talk like can be enough. You don't even need to do the thing. So this is something that I would love everyone to try if you haven't. And just see if that works for you. Maybe it doesn't, but very likely it could. And then that's a huge way. It's a very easy way to continue to be successful, just by removing the stigma of your wants and needs, basically. So, but first of all, as a going back to like why, the whys. Why am I feeling this? Like, am I feeling this way every day? Of course, then we're digging into that. But if you have that feeling now and then, and you actually are in a deficit, or like it's a very natural reason for why you are there, like just allow yourself. And just by mentally allowing yourself, maybe that's going to be enough for you. So yes, so this is like the rewiring of the habit cues. And this is a good one because this can also, and there's that grabbing of something sweet after dinner. This is also something that I've had periods where I felt, and I don't know about you other coaches, but I really feel that if I'm feeling a craving for something sweet after dinner, I really believe that, for me at least, I think it's connected in the fact that I haven't properly fueled throughout the day. So my first thought would be like, okay, I'm gonna try fueling even better, or like basically eating more veggies, potentially more protein through my earlier meals for the next couple of weeks, and see if I still continue to crave something sweet after dinner. But if you're craving it and you want to change it because you feel like, okay, now I actually need to lower my calories, and this would be a simple way of doing it, but it's hard, then this is like changing that routine, going for a walk instead, sipping some tea, writing down like how you feel, and just being consistent with that for a while. Because of course, if we're changing habits, it's not enough doing it once. Like then we have to do it over and over and over again. So experimenting with that can be very rewarding, because suddenly, just by now deciding on taking a walk or drinking some tea after dinner, that craving disappears because you have replaced it with something else, basically. And sleep. It's so important to sleep. And this is something we talk about all the time. And it's important for so many reasons. And as cravings, it has a huge, plays a huge role in how we feel with hunger cues. And this is where ghrelin and leptin is going to play a big part of that, basically. So, and this is also when it kind of matters when you sleep. So you really want to get to bed, um, have a consistent bedtime, basically, and really be in proper deep sleep, at least before 12, is going to be important as well, to have this optimal kind of signaling, and the I'm going to use the word pathway, like through the night of going through the ghrelin response, the leptin response, um, is going to be important, of like optimizing the signaling basically there, as well. So, and how to help your kind of sensitivity towards ghrelin is also going to be back to eating meals, eating whole foods, not snacking all day. Like, so basically, it comes back to the same with everything, like just proper fueling basically is going to be huge. And then the sleep is going to be helpful as well. uh, and stress management, because when we are chronically stressed, and that also includes like under eating basically. So anytime we're not fueling our body, and when I say fueling, I mean like with nutrition, I mean with sleep, I mean with stress management, like really nurturing ourselves basically in all the ways. If we're not doing that, if we're lacking somewhere, that's going to be the natural thing to kind of tackle first, and create a good baseline of nurture, basically. That's going to be very helpful in regards to have a proper ghrelin and leptin response, basically, that which is going to be hugely helpful then for how you feel, and also how your body responds in regards to fat loss and muscle growth for that matter. So, and this. Staying curious. I tattooed curious on my wrist to remind myself to stay curious. Um, so yeah, this instead of thinking, why do I keep doing this? Like, instead of that, asking instead, what's my brain asking for here? So basically, like, just know that whatever it is that you're feeling, it's a reason for it. It's a natural reason for why you're feeling the way you do. It's not your body not functioning. It's not you being bad. It's just a natural response. And what we want to figure out is like, what is my body asking for? Meaning we're not going to be judgmental. We're just going to be curious so that we can actually address what is lacking, or what it can be is a small little itty-gritty thing that we need to change, or it could be a bigger lifestyle change. And no matter what it is, if you want change, you will have to change something, basically. Um, I love this. Cravings aren't a sign that you're broken or lacking discipline. They're a sign that your brain is working exactly the way it was designed to, but in an environment it wasn't designed for. And this kind of goes back to what I said earlier, or what my belief is, of like the modern world that we're living in today is challenging in regards to having optimal health. Like there's a lot of things that in our way, so to speak. So you really have to take responsible. You have to take your own responsible in regards to like creating that. A body that is happy, basically, because a happy body is going to be a responsive body. So and diminishing cravings with using the tools that I've mentioned today, and then of course there's even more. That's going to be a great start in feeling better, in having more energy, in feeling more motivated, and also getting better results. If you are one that is, using a lot of energy on training, moving your body, do like feeling like you're doing all the things and your body's not responding, this is where you should start. Um, and basically, it is the basics. But that's the thing. In our modern world, the basics aren't necessarily easy. It's not easy just because they are basics. But it's the place to start. So I think that's a good place for me to stop. Does anyone have anything they want to share? Any questions on anything that I've said?
Just I was just gonna say, I think everything you said resonates, but the one thing I was thinking about today, I think in a calorie deficit, it can be kind of hard to figure out meal
Yeah.
timing sometimes. And I think there are so many people that have just like hard and fast rules on meal timing. But what works for someone else might not work for you and vice versa. And I think it can be hard when you're in a calorie deficit, but you also want to enjoy meals with family or friends and like figuring that out, so that you can still hit your goals, but then also take part in meals with other people, and just what that looks like for you. Is it having like a really like high volume breakfast, or is it maybe doing some intermittent fasting around things so that you can prioritize other meals, or does that cause you to overeat later in the day? And so it's like, I think that's going to come down to our training, like our training volume. I think a lot of times if we're training with high intensity, like intermittent fasting is probably not the best option in a calorie deficit because it's going to be really easy to overeat. But if training intensity is less intense and you feel like you can handle maybe spacing out meals further, or playing with your meal timing a little bit, then I think it's okay to try that. but also knowing what works for you right now maybe won't work for you in a few months as like stress changes, as sleep changes, as training volume changes. And so um, it's really easy, or it's a lot easier um, to handle cravings when you're eating at maintenance, right? And it's a lot easier because you can have higher volume meals and just more balanced, be more balanced throughout the day. But in a calorie deficit, that's where like all these things that Henrietta talked about are going to be really important. And it can take some trial and error. I guess that's the main thing I want to say is that like if what you did this week is just not working for you, like take note. Okay, maybe a delayed breakfast is actually causing me to overeat later in the day. Or maybe a delayed breakfast allows for you to kind of fit in those calories in a shorter window and feel like more sustained in the day, versus eating smaller meals throughout the day. So I think just like figuring that out, starting with these recommendations and like try applying them and taking note and seeing how they work for you. And if something doesn't work for you, then make an adjustment and look at the data and like see like how did that feel for me? And so I think different strategies with different times of life and different kind of also like demand on our current self in terms of stress and training and just schedule can impact what's going to be most successful for us. But paying attention to fiber, eating high volume, getting protein in, getting sleep, all of those things are going to really contribute to, I don't want to say managing cravings, but having that be more sustainable. Like, what if you are in a calorie deficit, having that feel a lot more sustainable. So yeah, thank you.
Thinking also like cravings can be like if you've had a lot of cravings your whole life and you never tracked your calories, it could be that you have been under eating your whole life most days as
Yeah,
well. Just starting off with like just start tracking your calories just to see where you're at. Like what's your baseline? That can
yeah,
be, or are you all over the place? Like some days eating very low calories, some days eating very high calories.
yeah,
Like just so consistency is always going to also be like one of the first things we want to establish, no matter how that meal timing looks like. So yeah,
for
there's
sure.
it depends on like where you are at, basically. What are you already doing and what's lacking?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes. Thank you. And if anyone has any questions, like more specifically that you're struggling with, then feel free to ask us in the app and happy to help. And we'll
Absolutely.
be here next week. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Henrietta. Have a great week.
Thank you.